So I want to introduce our keynote speaker, Jen Kish, with a story about our own brain scan supported concussion research. These were seminal studies done in male Bantam AA hockey players and in 3 years of the women's varsity rugby team at Western. These studies showed persistent changes in brain structure and function even after players had been medically cleared to return to play. Also, in the rugby players, even if you didn't get a concussion, the cumulative toll of the rough and tumble rugby game over multiple seasons led to long-term changes in brain structure and function. We, as researchers, are hugely grateful to these brave kids and young women who allowed us to unveil some of these inconvenient truths about contact sports. These studies have been cited in various bans for heading the ball in soccer in the UK and the US for kids under 12 or kids under 10. And a move by players such as Eric Lindros and Ken Dryden, who I've worked with, to ban body checking in hockey, period, at all ages. Our research literally had an impact on impacts. But rather than me bore you about these results, I'm going to let our keynote speaker bring some lived experience to the table. Jen Kish is one of the best rugby sevens players the world has ever seen. She captained Canada to silver at the 2013 Women's Rugby World Cup, won the gold at the 2015 Pan Am Games, and brought home bronze in Canada's Rugby Sevens debut at the 2016 Olympics. Her success has had a high price, though, a price we don't talk about or stigmatize if we do. Jen knows all about concussion and its effects on a player's physical and mental health. She's been an advocate for research in concussion, for talking about mental health effects it can lead to, all the while being a kick-ass inspiration to our own women's varsity rugby players. That's all they talked about in the years we were scanning their brains and drawing their blood. I'm sure you'll find her message thought-provoking and inspirational. Please give a warm welcome to our keynote, Jen Kish.
Oh, it's all set up. I love it.
Oops. All right.
Hello. That was a great intro. Thank you. Anybody watch rugby here? Okay, I like to know who I'm talking to. Does anyone know who I am before that intro? Okay, more hands. I like that. So there's not a lot of people here who watch rugby. I didn't know what rugby was for a long time before I started playing. It's not very popular here in Canada. So there's a video that I want you guys to watch to give you a visual of what kind of player I was and how I played the game. So here it is. That's not it. I'm a superhero. Hold on. That's after. Here we go.
Yes. How about that, eh? How about the issue still got kissed? They don't want this shaking man up. Just going from the five minutes up and she's oh, I am down here. Kish gets away from the tackle the difference. Down pull the Canadian captain down. Lovely step again. Jen Kish. This is going to be a brilliant individual try for the Canadian captain. And that switches the team's lead once again. Just when it looked as if they were going to come back into this one, it's a come. Lovely step again. Jen Kish. This is going to be a brilliant individual try for the Canadian captain. From the Canadian captain. This is Captain Fantastic. Everyone's going to get it up. Away, that's the final. Butcher has gone. Did that one go short? No, it did not. For the first time ever, Canada have won.
So that, thank you. Thank you. I haven't seen that video in a while. Rugby is a really aggressive sport. It's a lot of contact. In that video, actually, I'm like, can't be tackled. I actually didn't even think I hit the ground other than scoring a try where you touch it down. But that's rugby. And I wanted you guys to know what kind of player I was. I was a very aggressive player. I spent 13 years in the Canadian jersey, which is a long career in rugby. And the type of player I was had zero regard for my body, absolutely zero. There was nothing that could take me off that field. Prior to playing rugby, there was a baseline for concussion that you would have to do. And it was really important that you had this baseline because they wanted to know where you were at cognitive prior to a concussion. I would make sure that I failed miserably in this because when I did get concussed, I wanted to be able to stay on field and continue to play. To me, that was everything. That being on field was everything to me. It made me feel strong. It made me feel powerful. It gave me sense of worth, value. Rugby on field made me feel like a superhero. And I didn't make this. Someone made this for me. And after 2016, when we won bronze, I had little kids come up to me and they say, "You're my hero." And I go, wow, or that's great, thank you. But off field, I didn't feel like a hero. I felt confused and lost. And what people don't know is that off field, I was facing a deep depression and suicidal ideation. And that's what I call the unseen wounds we carry. It's the type of pain that we can't see. In 2012, we centralized in Victoria, BC. It was the first time that rugby really became professional and that we were aiming to be good enough to get funding for our program. And then later that season, it was inducted into the Olympics, into Rio 2016. I left everything back at home in Edmonton and I picked up and moved to Victoria and I said, you know, I want to go after this. So I moved and this is my 2012 season. I have black hair. I don't know if I look better with blonde or black. I switch. You know, when you have black hair, you want blonde and blonde, then you want black. Okay. So off field, like I said, I was very lost. And on field, I felt like it was home to me. Before I became the captain, you're not even gonna believe how I got the captaincy. I asked my coach for a meeting. I said, "Hey coaches, can I have a meeting with you?" And they're like, "Okay, what's it about?" And I was like, "I want to be the captain." And they were like, "Haha, that's really funny. Go train," right? And they're like, "Absolutely not." Because I was a very defiant individual and I was suffering inside. So I was lashing out all the time as a player. I wasn't a player that you probably like to coach, to be honest. But it didn't stop me from wanting to become the captain and leader. I felt like if I became the captain, that I would have this sense of worth, that people would rely on me, that I would no longer feel alone or confused. I also didn't understand why I was feeling this way. So that happened in 2012. And then 2013 came. Now, in this year, this is a historic moment. I experienced a lot of like historic moments in rugby, and this is silver. We were the first ever team in the history of rugby in Canada to place to get a medal at a World Cup. And then shortly after that, in 2014, our women's 15s team accomplished silver. This tournament, and the reason why I'm bringing it up is because this was one of my most severe concussions. And when I say severe, arguably it probably could have killed me if we had a couple more games to go, because I hit it. We were playing Netherlands, and it was in the quarterfinals. So it was big. Like when you're in a World Cup tournament, one loss, you're done, right? And I ended up getting, I went to tackle, and the girl's elbow hit my chin and I blacked out. I always had this thing with my athletic trainers that if I'm on the ground longer than 30 seconds, I am seriously injured, and like send an ambulance. If I get up within 30 seconds, I'm just hurt. Let me go on. Don't worry about it. I abused that trust, like straight up. I abused it. And I'm not proud of it. But you're going to do whatever you can to stay on the field. So I blacked out. There was about 2 minutes left. I got up. I was walking in the wrong direction of the play. In rugby sevens, the game moves so fast that unless you're laying on the ground long enough, like no one's going to notice, like at all. And at the time when I was playing back in 2012, 13, like we didn't have doctors on the sidelines. We were playing these massive stadiums, but there was no, like it wasn't on TV. Women's rugby wasn't on TV. So we didn't have doctors, we didn't have playback, right? So my teammate grabs me and goes, "Oh, we're this way." I'm like, "Oh yeah." She's like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "So good." Like I have a line out to do where they lift you in the air and you have to catch the ball. Man, I was like, "How much time is left?" They're like, 2 more minutes. I was like, "Oh, 2 minutes and sevens, guys, is a long time. Like you're sprinting, like you're doing 9 meters per second, like 7 minutes, full on sprint." And my head is banging. Like every time I'm running, I can literally feel like my brain is smashing against my skull. I feel sick. I'm seeing stars. And that's not the first time that I hit my head that hard and had to play. But I was like, okay, I can do 2 minutes. We won that game and we were off to the semifinals. I remember getting off that field feeling absolutely sick. In fact, I went to a private bathroom and I was puking. And I thought to myself, man, this is my first Sevens World Cup. I can't say anything. If I say something, I'm done. The team is relying on me. If I come off this field, I'm not worth anything. So I don't really care about what my future looks like. I care about what it looks like right now. And I will do anything and everything to stay on the field. So I didn't say anything. I was very quiet. I had to wear sunglasses and like outside, I was so sensitive. It was that bad. We're getting ready to play Spain in the semifinal, and that was 2.5, 3 hours later. And I have so much caffeine in me that I'm starting to get intercostal muscle spasms as well. So I'm like in quite a bit of pain. And we're playing Spain and I get knocked again. And this time I didn't black out, but I definitely fell to the ground. Like maybe I did black out. I don't know. You're asking me and my memory's shit, but it was bad. And I was like, I gotta get up. I have this 30-second rule. I gotta get up. And so I got up and we won that game. And then I played one more game. And I was like, please. And I was doing anything nuts. Like I was avoiding contact. My coach was like, what is wrong with you? Like your role is to get that ball and get it back for us and be aggressive and make them pay. Make them not want to run into you again. Make them change their game plan. And I was like, yes, 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 yes. And I was like, trying to, I'm like, like stay away from me because I don't want to hit my head again. And I didn't. But let me tell you, after that tournament, and we're up there. You can't even see me, but I can see me on here, but you guys can't see me up there. But I'm like kind of miserable. Like I'm like, because I'm like in excruciating pain. And all I wanted to do was go to sleep. And I still didn't say anything to anyone. And no one asked. I'm in the airport with sunglasses on and earplugs in my ears. And no one asked, what are you doing? That's really weird. Like, no one asked. I was like, okay, I was good with it. I was good with it. I didn't want anyone to ask. I didn't want anyone to pay attention. I wanted to be left alone and I wanted to heal. So after a Pinnacle event like that, you get 30 days off. You get to go home, back to your hometown and recover, but still kind of train. Like you don't actually get time off, but they're like, you're away from the environment. So they're like, it's time off, but you still have to continue to train. So I got 3 days of like physical rest. When I had to start my program again, I tried to run and I fell off the treadmill. And I went, okay, that's not normal. Like, and then instantly felt sick within 10 seconds. I'm like, okay, this is worse than I thought it was. It's not like before where I can continue. Like I really damaged my brain. So I called up my coaches because obviously after 30 days, you go back to the environment, you have to do testing again. I wanted to make sure that they knew that when I got back in the environment, why possibly I wasn't going to do well in my testing. If you don't run for a certain period of time, your cardiovascular does go down and I wouldn't be hitting my benchmarks. So I called up my coach and I go, listen, I hid something from you guys and I think I have a really bad concussion. And he was upset and he was like, well, now you're away from the training environment. We have no resources. So they were trying to give me a return to play protocol that I was responsible for on my own. You can imagine how well that went. I'm like, phase 1, done. Phase 2, done. And I wasn't even in that phase. I was still like back in phase 0 where you should not do anything. And I was so used to pushing my body. So I didn't let my brain heal in that moment. Now, there's one pain that I really grew to understand, okay? I think it's a lot of pain that people really do understand. And it's the pain we can see, right? When you can see pain, you understand kind of like that there is damage there. And to give you guys a real effect of what kind of pain I'm talking about, it's this kind of pain. This should play. Hold on. Whoops, sorry. I used to be really good at technology and then I turned 35 and I don't know what happened. Okay. Yeah. I love that reaction, you guys, because that's my reaction too. I'm like, ooh, ah. So I landed right on my neck. That was 2.5 months before the Olympic Rio Games. The moment I landed on my neck, let me tell you, I thought I was paralyzed. I felt bones, like my spine crushed, like it crushed. And I blacked out. I lost consciousness. And I'm an idiot because the first thing I thought was, I'm going to assess myself. I have to get up in 30 seconds because if I don't get up, they're going to come out and they're going to assess me and probably rule me out. I actually did lay there for about 25 seconds. And I was like, I got to wiggle my toes. I can wiggle my fingers. Okay, everything's still intact. I'm going to try to get up. And by the time I was getting up, the play was already downfield. And I can see my athletic therapist starting to run on. And I'm like, no, I'm good. And I'm like getting up and my neck is just on fire. Not only that, my brain, now here I am again, just in excruciating pain. And it brings me back to the 2013 World Cup. And I go, oh my gosh, like, I don't really want to go through that again. Like, I've already damaged my brain enough. And now my neck. So I have this physical pain. But what did I do? I got up, and I started running, and I tried to get back into the play. The rugby gods were on my side because there was about 10 seconds left before halftime. And I was like, great, I'm going to get 2 minutes to recover and I'll be good to go. This was the first game of the entire tournament. I had 5 more games to go. And it brings it back to not really caring about my own well-being. Well, fortunately, by this time in 2015, we had doctors on the sidelines. Our games were being broadcasted, and there was instant replay. So they obviously instant replayed this several times. They really drove it home. Kish is hurt. Yeah, no, I'm really injured too. They pulled me from the game and I was doing my concussion protocol. And I was like, I got this in the bank, you know, like they have my baseline, it's real. And it was even worse, guys. I failed 3 times. They let you do it. I don't know what it is anymore, but at the time I was playing, you do your initial assessment and then you do a couple hours later another assessment, you fill that, and then the next day you would do another assessment. I'll be honest, like I was so severely concussed, but I also never really paid attention to like where I was playing and what day it was. Like, but they're like, you have a very severe concussion. Once the pain wore off, or once the adrenaline wore off, my neck, I couldn't move my neck. And I was like, whoa, like it's really bad. I got a CT scan, I got an MRI. Turns out that I had a grade 3 concussion. I had 2 herniated slip discs. Find different words when you can't say it, right? And sprained my neck, and then I also tore something in my neck. And so we go to the pain we can see, which is interesting because I was in a neck brace. But here's the crazy thing about pain that we can see. I had a village of people around me. I had access to physiotherapy, massage therapy. I had a rehab program ready for me. I had medical doctors checking in with me. Acupuncture. I had everything I possibly needed to get back on field. The one question that I always got from people was, how's your neck? I'm like, yeah, you know, it's healing. It's good. Neck is good. Meanwhile, I have a grade 3 concussion. Why didn't anybody ask me about that? They can't see it. Because they can't see it, they don't ask about it. And so physically, I am healing. Mentally and emotionally, I'm suffering. And that's not being talked about, nor am I wanting to talk about it anyways. I'm so focused on the physical aspect. So that brings me back, that brings me to pain that is invisible to the human eye. Whoa. There we go. Where'd it go? Well, half my slides aren't even on the screen, you guys. You're getting like half the presentation. Okay, so this is 2015, the Pan Am Games. Anybody see that? Watch that in Toronto? One person? Okay, yeah, put your hand up. I see you. 2 people. Okay, so this is the first ever that we played at the Pan Am Games. It was a historic moment. You know, I'm like, we won gold. I'm waving, you know, I'm having like, people are like, I love you. I'm like, I love you too, blowing kisses. And you wouldn't tell that 3 days before this tournament, I got a call from my stepmom that my dad was on life support. And what happened to him, he ended up going in for, so he was living in Bali for many, many years. And he ended up getting sick. And he's the type of guy, then this is where I learned it from, where it's just like, until you're like dying, don't go see anybody. And so he was getting sick, and he thought it was a cold, and then he had a hernia, and they said, you know, you need to get this hernia fixed. That's probably why your body's starting to fight back. Like, go get this fixed. He said, okay. So he goes in for a hernia, but turns out that when they opened him up, and again, this is in Bali, it's not in Canada, so the procedures are very different. They found a 20-pound tumor in him. And then I got a call and his vitals started to crash and he was very sick. I had no idea, absolutely no idea. He's the kind of guy that just doesn't tell you until he can't talk because he's on life support. And I remember having to make medical decisions from Canada because my dad's wife at the time didn't really understand like what like a colostomy bag was or anything like that. And I had to, so this was 3 days before the Pan Am Games, and I had to show up to training the next day, and I acted like everything was fine. And it wasn't fine. I was suffering so deeply, but I wanted to be strong. I wanted to keep that value that I thought that it brought me, and we went off to and so I was faced with this decision, like, do I go to Bali? It takes me 2 days to get there. It's really expensive. And I'm a poor Canadian athlete at this point. And do I go to Bali and not go to the Pan Am Games? What do I do? You know, and I go, what would my dad want me to do? And so I stayed and I went to the Pan Am Games. And I know that sounds crazy because like he's on life support and he may not make it. But in my head, you know, I'm like, my rationality isn't all there due to the concussions and my emotions. I have a hard time coping, and rugby was the way I coped. I knew that if I went to Bali, I'd probably, if he died, I would have died with him. So I had to stay in my safe space, which was my rugby. And I was like, he's just got to fight. He has to see me play at the Olympics. There's no other alternative. He has to fight. And I also thought that if I went to his bedside that he would quit. And I didn't want that. So I wanted him to fight to see me again. So I went to the Pan Am Games, and it was a couple days before my birthday too. July was terrible. And I'm just waiting to talk to him. So while I'm, you know, fast forward to when we won and I'm waving and stuff like that, you know, I was crying every single day at the Pan Am Games. I was so depressed. I went back into that like confusion of like, I don't know if I can survive this mentally and emotionally. And so he eventually woke up, and he wasn't really like, he was very confused on what happened. He had a colostomy bag attached to him. He was absolutely livid that I gave the go ahead for that. And I was like, whatever, you're alive. Like, let's, you know, we'll deal with it. And then I'm about to run out of the tunnel for the gold medal match. And my mom, who I haven't seen in 15 years, sticks her head over the tunnel and says, hey, like, oh my God, whoa. My teammate's like, who is that? I was like, yo, that's my mom. I haven't seen her in 15 years. 15 years, you guys. And I'm like, wait, okay, so my dad is fighting for his life. My mom has just showed up that I haven't seen in forever. And I have to go and perform. I was like, I want to cry. But as soon as I hit that field, I was a superhero. Nothing could stop me. I had one of the best games of my life, the best tournament. When I got off that field, I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, I want this to end. I don't want to deal with this emotional pain that I'm in. And also, I don't know why I'm in so much emotional pain, but it brings you to my childhood. Oh, you can't see it. Okay, so it's a childhood of survival. It's important that you guys understand where I've come from, because it makes sense of why, you know, you're like, why hasn't your mom been around? And, you know, why are you tough as nails? Or why do you lie to stay on field? Why do you hide your injuries? Why are you good with pain? Like, I don't know if you guys are thinking that. I would think that. So as a child, my parents split at a very young age, and it was a very toxic environment, and my mom's an alcoholic. My dad had to have 2 jobs, And so he was never around, never around. My brother and I raised ourselves in such a way where we were grocery shopping at the age of 8. While my friends were learning how to do hopscotch, I was learning on how to calculate GST. So I had enough money at the grocery store to pay for the food. I was dealing with depression as a little girl, loneliness, anxiety, anger, behavioral problems. I was terrible in school, absolutely terrible. I had a problem with authority and I lacked self-esteem. When you leave a child alone to fend for themselves, and it's no fault of my dad at all. His main concern was to put food in our bellies, a roof over our head, and clothes on our back. But my childhood was constantly trying to escape child services. And my brother and I basically raised ourselves. And I remember thinking to myself, this is normal. Like, this is absolutely normal. I don't know, like, it wasn't until I started telling these stories to people, they're like, that is crazy. That is not normal. But when I was a kid, I thought it was normal. You know, I'm like, what do you mean you can't go out and like you have to be home before dark? Look at me, like I'm out till whatever hours, you know, and what do you mean you can't eat junk food for dinner? Like it was wild to me that my friends were so different, but I also knew that, man, I wish I had that, you know, I wish I had that. And because my dad wasn't around a lot, he knew one thing, because we couldn't afford a babysitter. We were so poor, like sleeping in a 1-bedroom apartment on the floor. It was hard. It was really hard for me as a child. And so he knew one thing, sport. Sport will be your babysitter. And it became my savior. Sport was the one place where I was surrounded by family and people who cared, and where I got my value. And so my dad put us in sport. It started with Taekwondo. So I did Taekwondo and I was really good at it. I actually got my 2nd degree black belt in it. I excelled, and then I joined football. I wanted to do everything my brother did. Yeah, look at me. I look cool, eh? Like bandana and everything. It's like I wanted to be a boy. Like just because I wanted to fit in. I wanted to fit in. I was the only girl on the team. And I was smaller, and I was about 13 years old here, and I was playing bantam football, and the guys were big. Like some were small, and I took advantage of that. But mostly, I got every time I was a safety in football. So defense was my thing, and I'm a kinesthetic learner, so I could read plays before they were happening. I was very good safety. I was one of the top. I had the most interceptions in high school. I actually played grade 10 high school too. I was really good. But I got a lot of undiagnosed concussions, a lot. Every single time my helmet hit somebody else's and they had mass behind them and velocity, my bell was rang. And when you're surrounded in the football world, you can't cry. There's no crying in football, just like baseball. There's no crying. And I'm just like, do anything to stay on the field and have this family. And so sport was my babysitter. It was also my savior. And, you know, my football coach, and how I got into rugby, my football coach was also a rugby player, and he goes, listen, and this is in grade 10 now, because I'm following my brother, and my brother hated it. I was way better than him. And my football coach was like, listen, the guys are getting bigger, and, you know, and I can see that you're getting knocks to the head, and I'm worried. So do you want to try this sport called rugby? And I'm like, I don't know what that is. He's like, it's contact without equipment, and it's against females. And I was like, sign me up, because this sounds fun. Like, this sounds like I'm gonna, you know, be a superstar. I have to. Like, I'm pretty good playing with these men, but I think I might have a future in this. Joined rugby. Now let's fast forward to when I retired, okay? So I spent 13 years in the jersey. Up until this point, I'm 29, I think. I wanted to retire before I was 30. Just like I wanted to be like the Wayne Gretzky, you know? Where they're like, why did you retire? And it's like, huh. But I wasn't. I when I retired, I was in such a bad state before I retired. I was protected to go to the Commonwealth Games and to the next World Cup in 2018. I was decentralized at this point. After the Rio Olympic Games, I asked my coach if I could move back to Edmonton. I was getting pressure from my old partner at the time to be home and make her number one. And I was caught between a rock and a hard place, like rugby, my love, and then this other love. And so I asked to move back and he allowed me. But when I moved back, it really isolated me from the team and I had to give up the captaincy. And I was okay with that. I understood that the team needed a captain in the environment. So I spent an entire year decentralized, trying to prove that I was still good enough to be on the World Series. And then I broke my hip. And then at the beginning of the season, and I played an entire season on a torn labrum, which is still torn and needs surgery, but I avoid surgery at all costs. It will happen though, I know that, because I can barely run now. So I was struggling mentally, and I said to my coach, you know, I'm feeling really isolated, and I don't feel like I have value anymore. I feel like, you know, I feel lost. I was at the top of my career, and now I'm like a nobody. That's kind of how I felt. And I was dealing with headaches every single day and neck pain. Like I still to this day, you guys, I have 3-4 headaches a day. I'm in constant pain with my neck. I can't look up for more than 5 seconds before because I have disc degenerative now in my discs in my neck. I have a 60-year-old neck is kind of what they say, like not my words, a sport doctor. I'm constant pain and arthritis throughout my body because I've played through broken bones and didn't heal properly. So the pain, the physical pain it was wearing me out after all these years. I thought I had a really special relationship with pain. I would say pain is my friend, and then it became my enemy. And then not only that, it was the mental and emotional part of things that I wasn't prepared for. I wasn't able to cope with. I never did cope with that part of pain in my world. I didn't even know what it was. So when I retired, I retired mid-season and I shocked the rugby world. They didn't understand what just happened, and my coach didn't really understand. I was like, I just quit. I'm just done. I'm not going to go to another Commonwealth Games and do another check on the belt that I'm going to, you know, a World Cup and then Tokyo 2020. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. I started to somehow get some, I don't know, you know, I wasn't even value. I started to quit on myself. Literally, the light inside me started to go out, and I was like, if I can't have rugby, I don't want anything, and this is too hard. So when I retired, I lost all my sponsors, every single one. I lost all my resources. I no longer had access to rehab programs or trainers or anything like that. I lost everything. And I sat there and thought, oh my God, what did I just do? I could have stayed on the roster. I could have had the resources. I could have used all that to get back to a health, you know, a sports psychologist, all of that. I could have used it all. And then I wasn't thinking clearly, and I quit. Now, that was tough for me. I always thought that I was going to be the athlete who was going to, you know, survive after they retire, and I had a plan B. I was going to open my business. I'll be a personal trainer, and I did that. But what I wasn't ready for was the depression, like the very severe depression. This is me at a photo shoot, by the way. The guy's like, smile, and I was like, like literally, my eyes look sad. He's like, you look really sad. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm fine. I was not fine at all. I was like so suffering deeply that people were seeing a different behavior in me, but no one was like, are you okay? Until I met her. That's my wife. I met her in 2019. She's a singer. And she was doing a gig in 2015 at the Pan Am Games. And we kind of connected and we were friends, but then we kind of lost connection at the time because I was with somebody and she was with somebody else. And anyways, many years later, at the end of 2019, she comes across my Instagram page and she goes, "Are you okay?" She DMs me, right? "Are you okay?" I'm like, "This is weird. Hey, stranger, how's it going?" "Yeah, I'm good." "Why? Why are you asking?" She's like, "Yeah, I don't know. That drunken video on your page, you don't look okay." Then we started talking, and then she asked me how my dad was doing. By the way, my dad lived. He lived. And he saw me at the Olympic Games. We had a really great moment. Yeah, sorry if I left you a cliffhanger. I was like, did he live? And then, by the way, I never saw my mom again. That was the last time I saw my mom. So I started talking to her, and it was the first time that I felt like someone really saw me, that I was struggling inside, and I didn't have to say, "Hey, look at me, I am struggling." She just knew. And I had this connection with her that I never had with anyone else. It was weird. She lived in Toronto, you guys. I lived in Edmonton. Like, that was a pretty strong connection, I gotta say. And so we did what lesbians do. We U-hauled it. Like, we literally grabbed a U-Haul, and a month later, like, in Edmonton, she was. And I was like, I love this. And then COVID hit, and I was like, man, COVID, you suck, but you also don't suck, because like, she's not busy with shows and I can't personal train. And now we have all this time together. Well, during that time together, she started to recognize behavior in me that wasn't normal. I was having mood swings. My headaches were out of control. I wasn't sleeping well. I toss and turn 100 times a night just because of my pain. I can't stay in a position for too long. And so she's like, "We need to get you some help. Are you willing and open to do that?" And I said, "Absolutely." And then nothing was open. Hospitals were being overrun. You couldn't get in to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist. COVID was a very scary thing, and arguably it still is, right? So she uses music as medicine. And if you ever see her perform, maybe in the future, you'll always hear her say that, "I use music as medicine." And she really does. And I didn't really understand that when I first met her and she said it, because I thought it was just like, yeah, I use sport as medicine. But like, music is very healing. Everybody can connect to music. She taught me piano, and I was learning memory through piano. And doing things like that really helped my cognitive stuff, my state, because I would drive places and not remember how I got there. And that was scary, and I was getting severe migraines, and it seemed to be getting worse. And I didn't know if it was the anxiety and the stress, or the brain injury, or it was hard. So when things started to open up in the world, I was able to do an extensive testing at the concussion clinic in Edmonton at the Glen Sather. And it was a 4-hour thing, and I learned a lot about myself. And then I went and saw a psychiatrist. And I remember the first time that I went in to see a psychiatrist, I thought, and it was at the Edmonton Alberta Hospital. And I'm like, I shouldn't be here. Like, I tried to leave, and the walls are all white. So that's like really intimidating, because you're like, and I remember texting my wife, and I'm like, I don't think I should be here. And I tried to abort, right? Like, I did not want to do that. I was okay with the concussion stuff, but when it came to the other stuff, I was like, I don't think I'm supposed to be here. Like, I'm very successful and I operate great. And she's like, "No, you do. You do. It's normal to feel sad, but how you want to cope is not, it's not normal." And so saw a psychiatrist, and did a lot of work with the psychiatrist, and I was doing a lot of rehab with the concussions, and trying to get my memory back, and not mixing up my words, and like the post concussion stuff that happens that still lingers with me to this very day. And I got a diagnosis of bipolar and ADHD. That made me feel safe, in the sense that I wasn't crazy, and that it made sense to me, and I felt comfort in it, but at the same time I felt ashamed, and I was like, oh man, And my wife goes, there are many more like you. And very successful people who struggle mentally. Some of the most special people in the world have mental illness. And when you're brave enough, you should share it. And she empowered me to bring light to my diagnosis, and I shared it with the world. And the amount of people that said me too, or went and got help, really inspired me then to go after the journey of bringing, of changing the stigma around mental illness and talking about it. And then I ended up getting this thing called, this is what I call it. It's called NURSE. You can't see it. It's called Nutrition, Unplug, Recharge, Sleep, and Exercise. And I find those 5 things, if I do those 5 things, then I am in a good place. If I get enough sleep, I can think properly. My brain gets tired very easily. If you have so many concussions, and I've had over 15 plus concussions, your brain gets tired and you can get confused very easily, and headaches, and there's all these things. So I made sure that I did all these 5 things and stayed on top of my childhood trauma and started to dig into that. And ever since, I've been on a journey of healing. You are not alone in your struggle. You are never alone, and we don't have to be alone. We don't have to be in the dark. There is always somebody there, but it's also on us to be brave and step forward. I, at the time, was not brave enough to step forward, and I had somebody recognize that in me. But the point of that experience at the beginning and the end was to show that we don't have to be in darkness, and we are not alone. Thank you for your time, you guys.